On Sunday, President Biden announced that the U.S. would not lift sanctions on Iran until that country stops enriching uranium. That would go even beyond the terms of the JCPOA. That same day, Iran's supreme leader announced that he would revisit the 2015 nuclear deal only if those sanctions were lifted first.
So, to break it all down, Georgetown professor and author Dr. Trita Parsi joins us now to discuss what might be next. Dr. Parsi, there was a lot of discussion about that interview in which Joe Biden gave, in which he shook his head. The White House tried to clear it up. What is your read of the actual U.S. policy position here, and then how Iran is responding currently?
Well, I don't think the position is that the Iranians have to stop enrichment, because that would definitely go beyond the deal. It just doesn't make any logical sense. The president nodding to that question was perhaps not helpful, but at the same time, I think the clarification is clear. Having said that, I am starting to get a little bit worried. I think very valuable time is being lost, and we need to move faster, because what we need here is a course correction to what the Trump administration pursued. But if we wait too long, the only option that may be available to the president may be a course variation. And a course variation is not going to be particularly helpful. We need a course correction. And time is running out. So I would personally have liked to see things move a little bit faster on this front than what we are seeing right now, because there's some natural deadlines here. We talked about it on this show several times in the past. There are elections coming up in Iran, and they're going to enter their election season in about a month and a half time. At that point, there's really not that much that can be done. So I'm a little bit getting a little bit worried about what the strategy is here.
Yeah. And talk about, what do you mean a course variation versus what you see is needed as a course correction? What are the distinctions between those two paths?
Well, the course correction is that we go back into the JCPOA, and then whatever changes is desired can be negotiated from within the JCPOA, meaning that we are in compliance, the other side is in compliance, and then we use the mechanisms of the JCPOA to pursue whatever changes can be pursued. But if we miss the opportunity to re-enter the deal, then we will end up in a position of seeking to change the terms of the deal from the outside, which is not terribly different from what the Trump administration said that they wanted to do. And at that point, I think the JCPOA will be lost. And these people in the administration, they're the ones who actually built this deal. They know the tremendous value of this deal. It would be, in my view, quite a mistake if we lost this opportunity.
So what signs should we look for as the Biden White House? They do have this this ticking clock here. I mean, Jake Sullivan going over to Tehran, or somewhere neutral. Like, what are the signs and things that we should look for towards progress?
Sign number one, to see clearly that the negotiations are not taking place publicly through spokespeople. Nothing wrong with them, of course, but that's not how to engage in this diplomacy. We need direct conversations between the Iranians and the U.S., not through microphones. So that's what I would like to see right away. And I think both sides need it. I think the Russians were quite clear on this. I think they made a good point. They said this is what they were worried about, that these type of public statements would stand in the way. What they need is to quickly talk to each other and figure out some sort of a choreography of how this is done in a way that enables both sides to save face. That can only be done in direct discussions between the two parties, cannot be done publicly.
This was also this interview was sort of an embarrassing moment. It was an embarrassing moment for Biden, who didn't seem to really understand the terms of the deal, and the questioner, Norah O'Donnell, didn't seem like she was prepared and really understood the terms of the deal either. You can respond to that or not. You tend to be very diplomatic in these issues. But I also wanted your thoughts on, what is the role of sanctions here? Do you think that the Iranians have a hard line in terms of the additional sanctions that were levied being ended before they get back in the deal?
Well, I think I'm a bit, when it comes to the Iranian position, I think there was a problem in the deal that the Iranians are trying to get at right now. The mechanisms of the deal were very much focused on making sure that the activities of the Iranians would be verified. So when they said that they would stop doing something, that could be verified externally, and that was done by the IAEA. There was no mechanism that would be able to verify that the sanctions relief that the U.S. was putting forward actually was done in a proper way. And it was it was overlooked, I guess, in some ways. And Yarbat Bangladesh has an excellent article about this right now. And that turned out to be a problem, because reality is the United States is very efficient at imposing sanctions. It's extremely inefficient when it comes to lifting sanctions because we just simply don't do a lot of sanctions lifting. We tend to impose sanctions and rarely do we lift them. So we're not as experienced in that. And this was a problem even under the Obama years, that there actually was an issue of making sure that the sanctions relief would work. So what the Iranians are pointing to right now is that if there should be some form of return to the deal, there needs to be mechanisms to make sure that the sanctions relief is actually working. I think those are things that should be done inside of the deal. Both sides just quickly need to get back into the deal before the deal is lost. And then all of these different issues can be addressed.
Yeah, really interesting, sir. Thank you for breaking it down for us. Appreciate it.
Great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Thank you.
And we'll have more Rising for you after this.